Hello, this is Draco, and today I'll be bringing you more Modern Merfolk action as we'll be taking the 8 Cs list back into another Modern League on MTGO. And this time around we had some really interesting matchups as some old decks was coming back. We get to meet Burn, but this time splashing green. We get to play against Eldrazi, utilizing some new tech from the Neon set, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, KikiJiki, in Modern. That's interesting. And also we get to play a rematch against the BlackWhite Blink deck we played against a couple of weeks back. So cool day today, and I hope you're gonna enjoy some of the things we're gonna see. If you like what I do, remember to give a thumbs up and like the video and subscribe. Also, I gotta say that I also created a Twitter account and a Twitch stream, so check that in the description if you want to follow more of the content I've been doing. And I want to thank you all for subscribing. I have now almost 130 subscribers. Thanks you for watching. And let's get into it. So the deck real fast before we go into some action. It's the same list we know with the 8 Seize effects. We got the 8 Masters of the Pearl Trident and Lord of Atlantis, so 8 Lords. And I think it's a nice place to be at the moment, still catching people off guard, taking out some greedy mana bases, or taking out Urza's Saga, which is still prevalent out there. Tron is also seeing a resurgence, so I like that way about it. As we talked about last time, we have in this tight list where we have a lot of cards that we don't really want to adjust that much. We still want to play our 8 or 4 Swealoons and our 4 Adepts and our 4 Tricksters to get some interaction. We can then play Subtlety, Force Negation, and Dismember all together. I think this is a new, interesting way of building the deck. I got some inputs from Tan Yi Hung, who told me that he was actually running the exact same list now, but trying to experiment with having 3 Subtleties and 3 Force Negations, the split. I used to play either Force Negation or Subtlety. I like the idea. When you are in a matchup where the Force Negation is not good, you can then pitch them to Subtlety. So I think there's actually utilization, but I do still believe that Dismembers are strong, so I want to keep them in. And then I, in the sideboard, had 1 extra copy of the Subtlety and the Force Negation, so we can tinker around a bit, adjust some things when that when that is relevant. The Kira is also in the sideboard, and we can use it when it becomes relevant. But let's get into it. So Modern League, Game 1. It's been interesting following the development in the meta. We see a lot of old decks coming back, and we start immediately out against Cabrito, and we won the die roll, so that's great. It's always good to be on the play, especially if you can be lucky enough to have a vial in hand. Yeah, let's go. Let's start on the play. No vial, but decent hand though. We got a Dismember, which can take out a Ragavan if that's the situation. We got a Tide Tipper that can take out lands. And we got the Force Negations and Subtlety for whatever. We of course needs to draw some action with this hand. It's a bit slow. We keep it though. We see no companions. And without any knowledge, I don't want to run out the Tide Chipper yet. He had a Bloodstained Mire, a Stomping Ground. Okay, what is going on now? He's suspending a Rift Bolt. What? Burn in 2022. Insane. And this situation, of course, because of Burn and the Rift Bolt being played on next turn, you could consider the Adept at this point. But I think actually, if we can get him to Rift Bolt our Tide Chipper to clear up his mana, I think that's actually decent. Anytime Burn is using the Burn spells on us, or on our creatures, not on us, it's a little win. And you can see here he also uses the Rift Bolt on us instead, and they want to really just go for burning us out. But interesting to see. You notice the green mana splashing green. Okay, Sunbaked Canyon, and they can follow up with a Lava Spike. So this is the Burn player's way, and I haven't seen Burn in a long time. So cool to see it back. We draw Swealoon from the top, and again, same situation here. This is a great draw because it allows us to play our Silvergate Adept, but we can also just play out the Swealoon. I know we're gonna take a point of damage from the Waterlogged Grove, but The Sverloon is so nice to get out here. And again, if you want to use his burn spells on the Sverloon, it's a win for us. So we're gonna put him under pressure. The Dismember is looking bad, by the way, against burn. Also because we don't want to take 4 points of damage. That's not the ideal situation. He plays down Mountain. And nothing. No place. Okay, we got this. Mono Vault. And I can see that actually, because now this is good, because now we can hold up Subtlety, and we even have a Mono Vault activation attacker. We have a Mono Vault activation to protect our Sverloon if that happens, and we can also attack with the next turn. Considering here, should we just board out? But I don't really want to take that little tick of damage going down to 12. They have 4 cards in hand, so maybe they could have potentially 4 bolt effects. Boros Charm, one of them. They need to have a lot of burn, so always a consideration how much damage you want to take. And but again, if we do this, we can kill him next turn. So by playing out the Adept, drawing a Master, I think that seals the deal, because playing the Lord now will allow us to have a lethal next turn, even though we're not playing the Lord and getting a point of damage from the Warlock Grove. So if we draw an island, we can also double Lord. So notice here, he top decks Thunderous Wrath. That old card. I remember when they introduced these miracle effects, and this was actually one of my favorite cards, Thunderous Wrath. Amazing to have a lightning bolt that gives 5 damage, right? But of course, they need to be lucky in drawing it, and there's no reason not to just force this, because we got the lethal blow on the ground next turn from the Master and the Mono Vault. So why not do it like this? And he can't do anything. Sideboard against burn. We want to get the Dismembers out. Ouch. They're gonna hurt too much. Considering they're not running that many creatures, so Subtlety could be a potential cut. But then again, they might bring in Fury. I don't really know the new list in the new meta from burn players. I don't even know why they're playing green yet. So cutting Subtlety or keeping Subtlety in could be interesting. Yeah, just wandering back and forth here. But I think it's cool to see burn back. I like that that deck is like really, old way of going about it. You just get all your burn spells in there, you burn them in the head, in a really classical way of winning in Magic. So we see how this goes, and we get a good hand, I would say here. In retrospect, I think maybe you could consider it the Spreading Seas, but again, their mana base is a bit greedy, burn decks typically, and this one is really greedy as they run all 3 colors. So normally, for example, they run Boros Charm and stuff like that with a single digit, like a red and a white mana symbol, and taking them off the mana could be really good. Same situation again here. Now notice. We want to just get the Type Shaper down, because we can then use the Spreading Seas to take out one of the lands, and then the Type Shaper will be a 2/2 anyways. He plays Eidolon. Oof, Eidolon. Oh my god, this card is actually great, and it's especially great against us. I don't think we have any cards that won't give us damage from the Eidolon. So I'm not happy to see that one there, I gotta say. So the Eidolon is an interesting card. I think in general this card is important for them, as they can then take some of our give us some extra damage out of nowhere, and we don't really want to play an Adept into Eidolon. They play a Goblin Guard into it, so they take some damage, and hopefully they'll attack with it, so we can Trickster down and block it. Unlucky for us, they are playing it really smart here, only attacking with the Goblin Guide, and we can't really take the damage. So instead, we want to just get the Trickster in to block the guide. And we tap the Trickster. We use the Trickster on the Eidolon. And this is of course to get in for damage, but might be a bit dangerous here, as they play a Lava Spike afterwards without having the cost of the Eidolon, so we should maybe not have tapped it down. just want to have the option of going in with damage. The Eidolon is not a good situation for us, and Waterlogged Grove is not interesting. Also, what is the outs we have against Eidolon? We are on 12 now, so I think the only thing we can do is actually going for an Otawara to bounce it at the clutch moment. But we need to board out, so find the last land for Otawara. And there it is. So a good draw. Okay, in this situation we don't want to block this one, and the Adept is fine just to have in play to say, if you want to attack Eidolon, we'll block you naturally. So our plan here is that let's keep up Otawara. Next turn we can put down the Waterlogged Grove, and then hopefully he won't do too many crazy things, and he just passes, and he only has 2 cards in hand. We just need to get that Eidolon off the ground so we can deploy our board. Considering here what is the right play, we want to do the Otawara play, but we could consider attacking with Adept first, of course, because he would never block. But the risk of that is that he then might attack into us, because the Tide Tipper is only a 1/1 at the moment. And that is not favorable, because if we then were to Otawara at that point, he could just replay the Eidolon. And we rather want 2 damage I don't want to trade damages right in the moment when I'm 10. We want to deploy a board, so we are not the aggressor at this moment. We just want to deploy a big enough board that we can kill him off in a couple of turns. And he is the one who wants to get us to 0 fastest. So conservatively play, just keep back the Adept and wait for him. So Otawara is important here. A cool little thing is that I know that Eidolon says spells cast with 3 mana or less, but even though Eidolon would have count if that was counting, it's not a spell. So one of the cool thing about Otawara is that it's not a spell. From Teferi to all sorts of counter spells, this is such an efficient card. And here a great way of again utilizing your excess mana to now do a clutch bounce. And considering this is decent, we got a good board. Of course, looking at this Fairloon, this is the strongest card in our hand. We could also play 2 Merfolks, Adept into Lord of Atlantis, and playing the Adept would maybe allow us to draw the land for this Fairloon. But alternatively, we can also look into Spreading Seas. He has only 2 lands and no more lands on hand, as he has not been playing any. And Spreading Seas, both lands, that could be pretty good. So that's also a consideration. So we're just thinking back and forth, what could be the right way of doing this. And even though I like the Spreading Seas play, I think getting more power on board is correct, and we can just play the Adept to see if we have another land for the Fairloon. We are on 9, so this is pretty dangerous, giving him too much mana. And the Waterlogged Grove can also be potentially dangerous. But this is good because now, with the Lord draw, that was enough for us to play the Lord. Because we drew the Lord from the Adept, which means that we can most certainly play a Lord next turn. And that would be lethal if we then go in for 5 here. So he plays that Attacker's Command. Okay, so here, that's the splash they do from green, which gives him 3 points of damage for us. And now I'm scared because we are at 5. So he only needs 2 burn spells, and we didn't take him off any red mana. So this is getting scary. What can he have? Luckily for us, he plays the Eidolon. This is a situation where we say, thank God he didn't have more burn spells at that moment. But the Eidolon is interesting because it means that we are not lethal. We needed the Lord of Atlantis or the play from the Master. If we play the Master, we are lethal. But then we take 3 damage, going down to 2, and maybe have 1 Lightning Bolt. So I don't really want to play the Master. I think it's too scary at this moment. So I think the correct play in this moment is just to attack, let him trade, and then we could do the Spreading Seas play, because then we can make sure that he can't draw anything like, if they have that, if they have a burn spell that costs 2 red. So we take him off green. This means we can also take him off Attacker's Command, if you have multiple of those. And this of course gives us 1 point of damage, which is a bit scary. Now he can kill us from a Boros Charm, but I think it's still worth it. And we can then play the Glasspool Mimic as a land. So we got 3 lethal creatures. He has 1 mountain. Come on, Cabrito, don't do this to us. He needs to pull like white mana and Boros Charm or something like that. But we haven't seen any white mana yet. So I think we're good. Come on. Come on, Cabrito. Don't do anything. Help me out here. And we win the match. So good showing, but I actually really like seeing burn back. And splashing attacker's command is pretty cool. Green in the red colors. Green in the red colors for a burn deck. Pretty nice. And now this is an interesting situation. We see Chijanta on the other side of the... And I guess I gotta say, this is one of the companions that I just have to double read. But in general, it says that no card in your starting deck has more than one of the same mana symbol in its mana cost. So this of course, is an interesting companion to play. And he plays Grove of the Burn Willows. We don't really know what's going on yet. Haven't seen this card for a while. Back in the days, it was a part of a combo where there was a burn spell, where you could burn your opponent, and the burn spell would go to the grave. And if your opponent gained life, you would get it back. So that was a big, cool combo. But the burn spell is banned from Modern, so that's not what he's doing. So I don't know exactly what's going on, but cool land, it gives him something. And now the Eldrazi Temple gives away the game. It's an Eldrazi deck, and I like the Obligator. It's pretty cool, little aggressor. Sometimes it can be like this nice little threaten effect if you have a couple of more mana. But otherwise, it's just a 3/1 that can haste in here. So I think it's pretty cool. We have a decent hand here, and we're considering what we should do. Of course, the Eldrazi Temple is a bit scary, as many of the best Eldrazi's are on 4 mana. So I think that it could be the correct play just to get him off his Eldrazi. It could also be the added, but I think getting him off the dangerous 4-drops from Eldrazi is important at this moment. The bad thing about this play is that we can't really argue for a block, so maybe added would have been better. But I just don't want to get hit now with the cost-efficient Eldrazi creatures. And here comes Fable of the Mirror Breaker. I think this is so cool. A new card from Neon Dynasty, and what it does is actually that it makes a really good 2/2 first of all. That's the starting point. But where it gets really crazy is that at the last part you flip it over and you get a KikiJiki. It's a token, but it's a KikiJiki, and I think that is pretty scary. He attacks in with the Obligator, and this situation because he chose to play his card first. We were considering blocking just to get that Obligator off the board, but I'm glad we. But we choose to not do that because we want to get his Eldrazi Temple to continue to be an island. This situation, there's many plays you can do. We choose to go for the Svelun. Again, force him to have the answer at this moment. And normally Eldrazi, they don't have that much removal in the deck. Not on this low card count. And other players could be mana inefficient. We want to hold the Dismember for potentially the KikiJiki, but the KikiJiki comes in 2 turns. So we have time to get the Svelun down now. And then we can double spell next turn. So hopefully he doesn't have anything to deal with our Svelun. Unlucky for us, he's really has the perfect answer, the Grist, where he can sacrifice one of his creatures. And I haven't seen this deck before, Eldrazi Red. I played against Eldrazi Red in Aalborg in the live tournament, but they were not splashing black and green for Grist. So I gotta say I was a bit confused when the Grist came down. Nothing we can do about that at this moment. We need to just see if we can get back in the game. He attacked with the Goblin Shaman token, and that gives him a treasure token, but it means that he has no blockers. So we get a free kill on Goblin Shaman, on Grist from the Tide Shaper. And I think he attacked because he wanted the treasure token most of all. So we can just attack in. In this situation, it's the reason why we're not playing out the Lord in this moment. We rather want to get the Ethervial online and, of course, the Dismember for his KikiJiki. This is important. But something happens here that makes us think a second about it. He attacks in, and I think we should block here because this Goblin Shaman is actually becoming a nuisance. It's continuously providing him with treasure tokens. And here the Thought Knots here comes in. This was a dangerous 4 drop from Eldrazi we talked about, where he is getting allowed to look at our hand. And of course, he might take the Dismember. The combo is great from KikiJiki and Thought-Knot Seer, but we actually choose to kill the Thought-Knot Seer here because the Thought-Knot Seer, when it dies, we draw a card. And we wanted that could be potentially a game breaker. And if he doesn't have any more great stuff to copy with KikiJiki, we might be able to overpower him here. And the 4/4 on the ground could have been good as well. I think this was actually maybe a bit of an aggressive play just to get the card draw. Maybe we should just take out the KikiJiki in this moment, but I can see arguments for both plays. We play down the Lord. We can attack in with a Mono Vault and hit him for 6 damage. This is pretty good because next turn we will be looking into becoming lethal, as we will have a lot of creatures. But he has the Reality Smasher that's a bit dangerous because actually that means that he can kill us this turn, and that came out of left field. So this was of course unfortunate, and this means that we had to block and we go to 2. Actually, meaning that we're not lethal anymore. We were lethal because we had double Mono Vault and Tideshaper and the unblockable Lord. But now we have to do some blocks here. But we can still get back in it. It's a pretty nasty combo, being able to KikiJiki copy the Reality Smasher. So I like that play from him. So what we do here is that we got the Ether Vial up to 2. So it's important to get that one down. We can play a Lord, and we can Ether Vial in another Lord, and then we can activate a Mono Vault. So we have some decent blockers. He goes to the copy the Reality Smasher and attack with both. And now this is about being really intelligent, because this math can go wrong really fast. Of course, we need to double block. They have trample, so we can't allow any damage to go through. Only 1 point. So we want to consider blocking the blocks here. These blocks, not that good. Then they can kill the Lord first on both, and then the other guys would be really small. So the right play is actually to put both Lords on 1 Reality Smasher instead, because then he won't be able to kill both Lords off. No, I mean, we should have them combined. Let's see how it is. Yeah, if we have 2 Lords on 1 Reality Smasher, let's see here. Then it gives 5 damage. We want to kill that one. Yeah, exactly. So this is a great play because it only gives us 1 point of trample damage, and then he can kill 1 Lord, and the 1 Lord survives, and the Tideshaper survives as well. So of course you can't have 2 Lords on 1 because they're 3/3s, and then killing the first would decrease the other's power. This block was really good because he can only give us 1 point of trample damage. He plays Ignoble Hierarch and Birds of Paradise, and we are on 2 HP, so this is a bit dangerous. But he's on 13, we draw a Tideshaper. Interesting situation, because the Ignoble Hierarch allows for the Birds of Paradise to be exalted, and by copying the Ignoble Hierarch, you can actually have double exalted. So we need to do something here. Unlucky for us, we didn't draw a creature, so we are pretty... we're pretty dead here. We needed to draw a Trickster or a Lord. A Lord wouldn't even have done it, so we needed to draw exactly Trickster. Or, yeah, so not a good situation. Not much we can do here. Only hope that he doesn't see the play, copying the Ignoble Hierarch. But he had another Ignoble Hierarch. So I think this game was really close, and I think we should have you notice how much value he get from the KikiJiki, and we should have taken that one out earlier. Even though it's also good to get the Thought-Knot Seer out there, because you can then draw a card. And we were close to winning if he didn't have exactly Reality Smasher, copying Reality Smasher for exactly lethal. Let's say we were in 11 instead of 10 at that point, we just could have taken the damage. So it was a pretty tight game. Good game, well played by him. We're taking counter spells on the play. They're good here. Dismembers are still good because they have a lot of creatures we wanna take out. But countering the Fable of the Mirror Breaker is good. We are considering cutting the Dismembers here, leaving in Subtleties instead. Okay. interesting deck he was playing. Eldrazi with 1 mana guys, and all that jazz. We get a good hand. Either Violent 1 is what we want to see. He cracks his Prismatic Vista and plays an Ignoble Hierarch. Okay, this is decent. Now we can take out his forest. Considering should we play the Mutavault, that might be good. But I don't think we're gonna play any attack with the Mutavault in turn 3 anyway. So let's just take the forest out and see what happens. We can double lord next time. Pay in for 4. It could be pretty good. The next turn we can Glasspool Mimic. But then he annihilates us. Hidetsugu consumes all. New card. The one tick on that enchantment is that it destroys each non-land permanent with mana value 1. So that's the Ethervial. And it's also the Tideshipper, even though we played it on 2. So that's a huge setback. And we're looking at this card saying, you have some nerves playing this card in a card full of 1-drops, in a deck full of 1-drops. And then he plays Thought-Knot Seer. So our great start, which was looking like we could double lord on turn 2 and smashing in for 4 and then having a lord again. Now it's all the way back, and he even played out the Thought-Knot Seer on turn 3. And he even killed his own Ignoble Hierarch from the vessel. So pretty cool take. I like the card. And another Thought-Knot Seer. So this draw is just perfect for him. He chose not to attack in because we have 2 3/3s. I think that makes a lot of sense. We're considering here what could we do. There's no reason to attack because right now actually we're holding him off attacking as the Mutavault is also a 4/4. And I noticed a lot of guys are now playing Merfolk lists with Archmage's Charm and no Mutavaults. And I gotta say, I think Mutavault is one of the best cards in the deck. That's just my opinion. So I think, even though I like the concept, I think that right now it's not the time. Adept is not our dream draw at this moment. our Vile is only on 1. Damn. He can cycle through some cards. We see the old Sulphur Spring. Really nice card. And then he plays an Eldrazi Obligator, which can threaten our master. Pretty strong. We are on 22, but now he's beating us down for a lot, so our good blocks are now gone. We can, of course, attack the Mutavault. So attacking with the Goblin Shaman, I think, is a pretty aggressive, as we just get a good block there. But we take a lot of damage here, and there's not that much we can do about it. I don't really want to lose the master. I think we would never come back at that moment if we do that. So we're on 6 HP. Draw the Mimic. And the first thing we should do here is just get the Adept down. Just to see what we draw. Maybe there's something. Let's hope for it. A land is not something. But it's not the worst, as we can actually now play down and copy another master. So now suddenly we have a pretty decent board. And even though KikiJiki is coming in next turn, his Thought-Knot Seers is not that hard to copy. But here we can actually attack in with 1. He's really no good attacks, and getting him getting his life a bit down is not the worst. So we choose to take in with 1. So the problem for him by copying the Thought-Knot Seer is that when it leaves the battlefield, we draw a card. So that would actually not be a really good idea to use it that much on the Thought-Knot Seer. That's one of the non-bows in his setup here. But he does Alpha Strike in. We can activate the Mutavault and we can start blocking. So this is a decent block. This is a trade. This is a good block. And we can take 4 damage here. Let's see what happens. We are of course a bit nervous about removal spells at this moment. And this becomes bigger when it deals damage. Something deals damage. So let's draw some cards. See what happens. 2 Thought-Knot Seers means that we can draw 2 cards. That's pretty good. He terminates our master. Doesn't mean that much. We still trade a lot. Our board is gone, but we draw 2 cards. Tideshipper and Spreading Seas. Not the cards we wanted. And then another Thought-Knot Seer. well played by him. I think that's why he alphaed, because he had the last of his 4 Thought Knots here, so he could remove our last threat. And we try to see if we can get lucky by, but we don't draw anything but Spreading Seas. Now this Trickster is pretty decent, but it's not enough. We're on 2 HP. So the only thing we can do here is that we can attack and tap 1 and then start jumping. So it doesn't look good. He copies the Vessel. Interesting choice not to take the Thought Knots here, but I think he still doesn't want to give us cards. And then he can dash in the Ragavan, and that's enough. Okay, 0-2. Great. Well done by Twinless Twin. You, sir, are a boomer if you want to play Twin still. So I think you made the closest thing you can, getting back the KikiJiki. So I think that was pretty nice deck to see coming back. Okay. Let's get match 3, round 3 of the Modern League. We've really seen some interesting decks. I think it's funny to see them taking with Eldrazi. And of course there's a lot of interesting comes into play effects that make sense. Okay, we found a match. So 1-1. Let's take the last, take the third game here. We are against Draco, and we won the die roll. And not a good hand, but then again, you do have the Ether Vial. But the problem here is that you don't have like an adept that can draw you out of this. And if he has an answer for the Ether Vial, we're just too far behind. It is a consideration just because Violent 1 is so strong, but people are playing Prismatic Ending and March of Over the World of Light, so I think it's correct to mulligan it. This is a bad hand, but then again, we have the added, we can draw out of it, and we have the Ether Vial. We just need to not draw lands for the entirety of the game, but I still think it's correct to keep it. And down with the Ether Vial, let's go. Spirebluff Canal. Okay, so this could mean many things. This could be Murktide or Easy Control. We draw a lot of lands, that's great. And he plays Consider. Okay, so Consider is still could be many things, but Parson Flames means that we might be up against Storm at this moment. That could be the only thing, because there's also Cascade decks playing Parson Flames, but they there are some other decks playing Parson Flames, but typically it's the Charbleger deck, and that they're not running Spirebluff Canal. He plays Serum Visions, and we draw a Tideshipper. This is decent at this time. We just want to play out our hand, so we can put pressure on before he can combo off. We want to see if we can draw any like interaction or anything like that. Like one of our Force Negations would be great, so we can take out a combo piece. But we are boarding out well. We've been drawing well, so this is a lot of pressure he's taking on. And we just want to keep it on 2 at this moment. So let's just Spreading Seas just to see what we draw. He used the Remand on Spreading Seas. Okay, that's a great play, bro. I'll just do it again. Thank you so much. And a Waterlogged Grove. So yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We can crack the Waterlogged Grove next turn. We've been drawing well from our starting hand. Baral comes in. I like Baral. What a nice card. Really, really strong. And then now the Manamorphos come in. So now we're gonna a bit dangerous, because we're just sitting back here waiting for the Storm guy to storm off. Come on, bro. Don't do it. Luckily he has nothing. He can't really start a chain of Manamorphos here. We still really don't want to take it up. If we draw a card, then we can play it. Any card. If we want to crack Waterlogged Grove, 2-drop would be fine just to play in. So considering here, should we take it up? I think it's correct still to leave it on 2. Also, if you draw Silvergill at this moment, it would be horrible to start using all the mana for this. Spreading Seas, yeah, that's decent. We can take him down to 1 red source, if that matters. It shouldn't really matter that much. And now we found the Adept, so it was actually relevant to stay and do that. So let's play that one. Hopefully we can draw Force Negation here. We didn't, and we can play that one. So just putting down the Waterlogged Grove. And putting down the Warlock Grove is interesting because we're looking in here and we still have the Force Negation we can draw. So let's see if we can find that one. It was some Master. Okay. Doesn't matter. We could also draw the Dismember, killing the Baral. That would also be really nice. There's no need to attacking with Lord. We're tapped out, so maybe we actually should have, because if we had a gut shot, but he should of course always block. We just wanted to really get that Baral off because we were lethal actually if that wasn't a blocker. But luckily he didn't have it. This is one of the situations where I'm just searching and searching for the answer. Maybe a Trickster tapping down the Baral to kill him, anything like that. Just find the answer, But find a counterspell or find the answer. But luckily he didn't have it. When we passed to him, it was kind of dangerous. And I also think it's cool to see Storm. I don't know why, but Storm is such both a stupid mechanic, but also really, really fun. And people storming off with, having like these crazy kills where they can have multiple Storm counters, then Grape Shot or empty the warrens, or even milling you out. I think it's pretty cool, and especially in Cube, I like sometimes to draft the Storm deck. Okay, so for the sideboard against this, of course we want all our counter magic, because even though the problem with counter magic is that you can't really counter the Grape Shot, but you can counter a crucial spell. We also want to get the relics in. We saw the Past in Flames, so interesting to get that in. And then, of course, Force Negation is great because typically it's a ritual you want to counter on Manamorphose or something on his turn. So Forces are good. Dismembers is also good because they typically play both. We saw the Baral, but they also typically play the Goblin Electromancer. And getting them, those cards are like a win condition for them. Like a Goblin Electromancer means that they can just combo off. This hand does very little, but it has a Force Negation. Considering if we can keep this, I'm not quite sure, but I think maybe simply because you can, Force Negation, a crucial play. I think that makes it keepable. And on the draw, you can also still manage to draw some sort of land. This is a consideration playing the Tide Shape at this moment. It's typically a 2/2, so we can get in with Svanline. So let's just get it down there. I know the Riverglide pathway is not an island, but they have many islands in their deck, so we just want to get the pressure on. Hopefully we can draw an island next turn to play down a Lord. Okay, Storm player. So you kept one land hand. That's a great way of getting about it. We don't draw the island, unfortunate. But he goes to discard. But we're not really managing to put pressure on. And now we draw the wild. We need to get it down, even though the Mutterwald would be, also acceptable to attack with. But in this situation, we just need to get the wild down. Luckily, he can't really seem to draw land. So this is like high level modern. We're not drawing any lands, and he's not drawing. He kept one lander and is not drawing lands either. The Adept is a good draw though. We didn't draw the island though. So Ritual coming in. Okay, this is getting scary because if he kept this hand, he must have a lot of combo pieces like multiple Manamorphoses. So Desperate Ritual is really dangerous. So we need to counter this. But now we really need to find the second blue for our counterspell. We don't find it here. It's only a relic. Damn, what's going on? Let's get the Adept down. Force Negation. Okay, that's doable. It's not a blue source. Blue source would be much better. Because a blue source would allow us to set a hold up counterspell. But the Force Negation gives us one more turn. Again, he plays the Ritual. We can use the Force Negation. We don't want to get him started on the Storm triggers. But this leaves us vulnerable next turn. And we need, please, to draw that blue source that we've been looking for like, 8 draw steps now. And considering if we should check out a counterspell or a lot of advances. But we can't really win next turn. And the Lord, will that even change the clock that much? Let's just see here if we can draw another card that we can pitch. We didn't. So now we just take the Force. And considering here, I think the correct play is to pitch a Lord. Because one Lord would actually be enough to kill him in 2 turns. Because that would be 6, 7, 8. 8 damage, he goes down to 6. So pitching one Lord and having a Lord for the Mono next turn, or for the Eldrazi next turn is enough for killing him over 2 turns. We just need to draw the blue source so we can hold up counterspell. But we don't. We draw another Lord. And this is of course really scary because now we are back in the same situation. And in that big discussion we've been having with mana leaks versus counterspell, this is just a good example of why sometimes mana leaks is better. Because a mana leak here would just have been the game. We would be no pressure. The reason why we want to attack here is that even if he finds a way to clear a board, I know that's not really the situation, but let's say he clears the board. Then we can actually attack with Mono and put in Eldrazi and kill him for 3. So that's why I want to attack with the Mono there. But that's not really going to be relevant because it's the combo kill that he's going for now. And now we just have to cross our fingers. Triple Metamorphosis from a Periodic Ritual. Consider the Storm count is going up. I don't like this one bit. It's getting scary. It's getting scary. Draco, don't do this to us, Draco. And luckily he didn't find it. Okay, so we're up 2-1. We're up 2-1. Abelmolto. We won the die roll. We are on a die roll hitter here. We keep winning the die roll, so that's really good. That's really good. Okay, this hand, I like it. Let's say that we had one less Eldrazi. I would still have kept it, even though we can't play anything on 2. But just Vial on 1 is so strong. He plays a Goblin Guide. Okay, interesting. So Goblin Guard into Goblin Guide. I was actually having to look here. Is it the same guy we played in round 1? It wasn't, but interesting to see again something that kind of looked like Burn here. So in this situation, we didn't draw the land we wanted to play our Lord. So instead we can play down Vial and then we can Dismember. And Dismember we actually want to wait, because the Goblin Guide trigger will make us look at the top card and see if we can draw a land. So we want to kill the Goblin Guide because it gives us too much damage too fast. But let's wait here. And we actually draw from the Goblin Guide trigger. Nice, nice. And then we kill it. Going down to 14. And he didn't have another play. We can take up our Vials. And now we are getting in good range of playing a lot of Lords. Svealoon. Interesting. Okay. New situation again. So if this is Burn, we want to play out the Svealoon, because even though he might be able to kill it, it would mean that he's using his burn spells on Svealoon and not us. He has 6 cards in hand, but I think it's fine to get it out here. If you want to use resource, he needs to typically use 2 removal spells on it. And sitting again and holding it in his hand is not good. And even if he kills it, it's just a 1-for-1. We can Vial in a Lord, and we can play a Lord. And then we can hit in for 4 damage by vialing in a Lord in our own turn again. So I think it's still correct to do it. He uses Board Charm on us. So as we said and drew it out, this looks like it's a burn deck again. Playing against the burn again. Lava Spike us. Ouch. Bro, stop doing it. And we go down to 3. Put in the Lord of Lands. We need to find some sort of counterspell here. Considering what we should do here, I think actually the correct play is to take 1 up and stay 1 on the same. But also you can also draw a Glassful Mimic on 3. So we're considering if we should take up this Vial needs to go up, of course. But the other Vial, should it also go up? Or should we just Vial in 2 Lords immediately? That's a good question. What we think about this? So this one, are we taking this one up? I think it's correct to keep it on 2. We draw a Tidechipper. Okay, it's not a counterspell, but it's an interesting card because that might keep him off a Boros Charm. But then again, there's so many cards we can die to at this moment. We don't exactly know what his list is, but instead of that, we could also see if we could find the Force Negation, because we can't really keep him off his mana that well. So let's just get in there and hopefully we just wanted to draw the fourth negation. We didn't draw it from the Waterlogged Grove, we didn't draw it from the Sphere Loon, and now we are on 3 and he lightning bolts us. Okay, so it wouldn't have changed anything putting the Tideshipper on. So another burn deck. We are really up against burn today, and I think it's nice to see them back. And we won the first match against the first burn player, and now this one is it's a bit different as we are down 1-0. But let's see what we can do against burn. Spreading Seas is, even though they have a greedy mana base, I think there's a lot of cards that are good against them. We like our Force of Negation, our counterspell, so we can counter. Typically, it's like they have like only just exactly enough burn spells to kill you. It's like Lava Spike and then Lightning Bolt. That's the last card, and then they kill you with that. So one counterspell can sometimes make or break anything in that, especially also if we can go raise them. Subtlety could be good because they might bring in Furies, and for an early Goblin Guide, considering what you do with that. Spreading Seas is also a consideration, because they do have the greedy mana base, but I just wanted to make room for the counter magic. Okay, so this hand is decent as you have the subtlety that you can use early. Because we have 2 Tideshippers, let's just get it out there, and then we can convert one of his land into an island. And this is where he takes us entirely off guard. Wild Nacatl. What a boomer. He's actually playing Wild Nacatl. One of my favorite cards, actually. I think this is so cool. Such a cool card. Really nice flavor as well. But of course, it means that we really don't want to use the Tideshipper right now, because he's probably gonna find next time a land that will give his Wild Nacatl a big boost. Exactly, Sacred Foundry. And now he plays the Monastery Swiftspear from the Sacred Foundry. This is actually pretty good play by him, because that's a dangerous creature to have come in. But we really don't want to subtlety it. We will go so far back in card advantage from subtletying as a Monastery Swiftspear. It'll come back with haste next turn, and he might even have even better Plows triggers from Lightning Bolts. So a really interesting situation now. We have terrible blocks on the Wild Nacatl, but next turn we can take out the Sacred Foundry. But we actually choose to subtlety it, and I think this just because I think it's too much pressure at this moment to have us go down here. He might burn us, but he just had another Monastery Swiftspear. So I think, yeah, this is one of the situations where if you don't use your subtlety here, it might be burnt in hand. And by using the subtlety and him playing another Monastery Swiftspear, then we could trade with our adept. Okay, so the Wild Nacatl now, we have the play against that one. We can take out the Sacred Foundry. Of course, it's a bit vulnerable, but we also have the Trickster if he finds the solution for the Tideshipper. So we can beat in for 2. And now, Wild Nacatl, what will you do? He will find another Sacred Foundry? Maybe? He's threatening it. Crazy to see a burn deck playing Wild Nacatl. And he can Lightning Bolt the Tideshipper, which will get this Wild Nacatl back to up to a 3/3, and also a Goblin Guide. So really great play by him. Good draw, putting a lot of pressure on. And we are of course on the back foot, but we do have the Trickster. So the Trickster is interesting. It can shrink the Wild Nacatl, and then it can block. We're considering here he's on 13, we're on 12. He has 2 cards, we have 2 cards, so it's actually kind of close in the race. And even though he's a burn deck, it seems like he's a bit more of a aggressive aggro deck than a traditional burn deck. And we haven't seen Lava Spikes and stuff like that, so maybe he decided that one out to have more pressure on board. And that's why we're considering, should we just attack with the Tideshipper? Maybe we can get in some damage and see if we can tip the scales our way. And I know this is a big consideration, but it takes a long time. But it's just important, because the problem with doing this play is that, let's imagine that we play down the Trickster and the Tideshipper has attacked. So we play down the Trickster. The Wild Nacatl is now 1/1, and then we can block the Trickster on the Goblin Guide, and that's decent because we have a 3/3, he have a 2/2, and our Master can block the Wild Nacatl. It's a 2/2. But what if he then has a burn spell and kills the Master? Then his Wild Nacatl will survive, and his Goblin Guide will trade with our Merfolk Trickster. So I actually think that the correct place was to stay back with the Tideshipper to make sure that we have the wildcard block. But we consider it and try to do the attack with the Tidechipper. Hopefully he doesn't have a removal spell. So we play down the Trickster now. We take the wildcard down to a 1/1, and we can do our favorable blocks. Sometimes you can't really be so scared all the time, and getting the 2-punch damage could be important. But he did have a Searing Blaze, which is like the worst card he could have, because it also gives us 3 damage, and it clears the board. And now he has a 3/3, and we have a measly Tidechipper, a 1/1. So in this situation, it would have been much better to do the other play. Then the wildcard would have died from the Tidechipper, even though the Tidechipper would also have died. But then nobody would have a board. So I think this was a mistake. We play down the Lord, and we can't really in this situation attack now, because then he would just have a better attack. But he doesn't attack now because we do have the double block. Okay. Yeah, Adept is not a good draw. We can play down a Vial. And in this situation, the game is so close that we consider it is better to fake a counterspell than to play the other Vial. But he plays in instep the Destructive Reverie, another interesting card tech. So we should have played the other Vial, but that's difficult to know. He doesn't have an attack though, and we draw a Trickster. This is decent. We can take in the Adept and a Force Negation. That's pretty good. So let's get the Vial down. We still don't want to attack now because he has no islands, and he can again kill our Vial. This is becoming dangerous, but there's no need to fight over the Vial at this moment. He plays the Goblin Guide. That's pretty decent, and then he reveals the land for us. And it attacks. Okay, but we can trade off our worst creatures, and then he uses Attacker's Command. Okay, great card, but we do have the Force Negation. This is where it was really good. The reason why the Attacker's Command is great is that it can give us 3 damage, but it can also provide power boost to his team. So now we are actually on the top of things, as we have 2 Lords after we managed to counter it. Unlucky for us, we can't counter anything with Force Negation, but we needed to get the Master down. So we managed to scrape back from a tight game. The Tidechipper attack could be discussed, but I think this situation we should have just stayed back and blocked the wildcard with that one. But back and forth, sometimes they don't have it, sometimes they have it, and getting the 2-punch damage in could be important, but that's the only line I think we could have done differently, but we won anyway. So, okay, now seeing he's a bit more creature heavy, I think and a lot of burn spells. We're taking in the Kiras and the Dismembers. We want to get his wildcard off the ground if we can. With the Dismember, that would be great. And now we're running both 3 Subtleties and 3 Force Negations. So we are all in on all the Evoke style effects. This hand, okay, interesting. Not a great hand. You do have the Dismember for the early aggressor. He's on the play, and we do have an Ether Vial to start ticking up. So it could be a consideration keeping it. I know it's not a great hand. We have playing Merfolk with no Merfolk in hand. He did have the wildcard, and we drew a Master of the Pearl Trident. That's great. I know we could Dismember it now, but I think it's better to start getting the Vial online. So he might hit us for 3 damage, but I think it's okay. Another wildcard. That actually changes math entirely, because now the Dismember is just going to burn us for 4, and he'll still have a wildcard. That's not the card I wanted to see. And we draw a Master. Yeah, so in this situation, we need to Dismember anything, and we need to make sure that we can play a Master next turn, so we have 2 3/3s. And so we might as well play the Glasspool Mimic as a land. The Glasspool Shore. Sounds like a nice place to have a vacation, right? Glasspool Shore. I've been enjoying the sunny weather now. I think this, especially in Denmark at least, the weather is really turning around. It's becoming really great. So hopefully everybody's enjoying that it's a bit of sunshine. Let's get the shore down and take out the wildcard now. There's no need to wait. Next turn we can double Lord, which means we have 3 3s we can block with. That's decent, but we're on 10, so that's a bit scary. Luckily has really no more action at this moment. We draw another vial. Okay, Mono Blue is also interesting because we can then activate that and attack next turn. So we play down another vial. Now we can have 2 lords in play, and next turn we can trick up the vial and play another lord from the mimic. So it's looking decent. Unlucky for us, he does have the Searing Blaze. This is really rough because it means that he can take out our master and give us 3 3 damage also. And he even have Eidolon and can attack us with Wild Nakal and Lightning Bolt our he Lightning Bolt just in our face. So this is not good. And we're looking at this saying we can't really do anything. We need to chump block with the master, and we're on 4. So this is not looking great. He's attacking in. And let's just take the damage and die on our own terms, we say, because we are too far gone at this moment. So we play. Let's just play the master instead of doing that. So yeah, then we die from the Eidolon. Yeah, okay. We could have trickster in a vial in the master to try to see if we could survive that by blocking, but I think we're so far behind, and he was 1 removal spell out from killing us. So, final match of the league. We're 2-2. And it's interesting, but we are back battling Burn. 1 win against Burn and 1 loss against Burn. But I think it was interesting to see the creature heavy Burn. And I wanted to wondering if Abel Molto was using the Wild Nakals from the sideboard, or it was a main deck strategy. I think it's interesting to see the green splash. So we saw Attacker's Command coming in pretty strong. Really interesting tech, as they can kill off an artifact. I think in this meta, I think that is actually a really good call. We have a lot of artifact decks running around, and you can also kill an Urza's Saga token, and it's not irrelevant that it also gives 2 damage to the opponent when you use that card. Okay, last match. And this hand, okay, it does have an adept and an Ether Vial. So even though it's a 1-lander, we're on the draw. We can easily draw a land, and we do. And now this hand looks really good. So he plays our plains, a funky fresh plains that also kind of looks like it's a dinner menu from an Asian restaurant, but it looks cool. Stoneforge Mystic. Okay, what's going on? What is he finding? Is he finding something crazy? Batterskull? Complete. Caldro Complete. Okay, Caldro Complete. That's a good card. And sometimes we actually... Our deck has been strong against Caldro Complete when we used to run some of the other bounce creatures. This version, we don't have that much to bounce, and our Brazen Burrows are on the sideboard. So let's just play down an Adept, and now we can get hit for 5, of course. And he will go on the aggressive with Caldro Complete. Not too worried. We do have a Trickster, and next turn we can both Trickster and Sverloon. And then we can follow up with a Lord. So even though, of course, this is strong, Stoneforge Mystic into Caldra is really strong. And well played by Veri Thragna. Sorry for butchering name, bro. So in this situation, it's all about getting down the... we were considering, is there any reason, should we try to take him off mana? We are going to Trickster anyway, but we can take him off black mana, and that could be a play. The black mana is also the one thing we are pretty scared about from our Sverloon. But we do have, with the Sverloon, Indestructible from Trickster from the Ether Vial. One thing to note here is that even though Sverloon is Indestructible, and that's a pretty nice ability to have, the Caldro Completes doesn't really care about Indestructible. It'll just exile your creature. So don't block with your Sverloon. That's my tip for today. Do not block the Caldro Complete with the Sverloon. We don't want to let him attack, so let's just put the Trickster in upkeep and tap it down. I like to do most of my magic in people's upkeeps. In my opponent's upkeep, I want to Trickster things down. In my own upkeep, I want to Vial stuff in before it goes on the stack. All the good plays in Magic are done in upkeep. Just a tip for you guys. He plays Emeria. These cool lands that they made back in the days. Not even that long ago. What's coming in? Touch the Spirit Realm. The first time I played against this card, Pretty interesting. It's more or less just an Oblivion Ring. But it means that he can take us off Svelun, which is annoying. And at this moment, we are facing down a Kaldra on 15. But let's raise the Kaldra. I think we can do it, because we have the Spreading Seas, which means that he will have an island after we use the Spreading Seas. And we also have the Lord. But we draw the Tideshaper, that's even better, because then we can also get pressure on. And this is an interesting situation, because we're going to take 5 damage from Kaldra next turn, but it's really going to be a problem for him if he doesn't get, being able to block. So we just have to put down the Tideshaper, and then we can Lord to have maximum amount of damage here this turn. Here we could have both Tideshaper and Lord of Atlantis, but I actually like attacking with Mono Blue to maximize the damage. And this is a situation also where we could consider wait on the Lord, so he doesn't have a chance to interact with it. But again, giving him 9 points of damage here, going down to 6, that's just so strong. And he needs to take us off. If he kills the Tideshaper, it's not enough, because then we have the Spreading Seas, and we still have 7 Lords in the deck we can draw if he kills the Lord. So I like this play just to put a lot of pressure on. And he can't deal with the pressure from the fish. Okay, we immediately takes in the Brazen Borrows. Of course, Brazen Borrows are crazy, because they can just bounce the Kaldra complete Germ token, which will nullify the Kaldra entirely. Force Negation is not as interesting here. Think Skydivers? Yeah, that might be. Some of the decks are running sort of Fire and Ice, which is a beating. But we haven't seen that one yet, and maybe he's not doing that exactly. We still don't know exactly what's going on. We only really saw the Stoneforge Mystic and a couple of removal spells. So when we don't know anything, we just put in Counterspell. Good old Counterspell. Okay, we up 1-0 in the final match of the Modern League. Let's finish this off strong. We want to get a winning record each time we play. We want to go infinite. It was a bad hand. This is a good hand. We have the Adept into Trickster. And we can even also consider holding up counter magic with Trickster's backup. And this situation, I think all my Merfolks are good in this situation. So I just want to skip the Warlock Grove. This card, Malakir Mire, actually gives his hand, or his card, or his deck, more away. Because this means that it's the infamous BlackWhite Blink deck. Which is the one we fought a couple of weeks back and closely won over. And now he's coming back for revenge. We won't let you, Vera Fragna. Sorry for still butchering that name. And of course, this situation, we are a bit scared that he could have Stoneforge Mystic or some other strong play. So we just hold up Counterspell and let him attack with Charming Prince. Engineered on 2. Well, sir, I will not allow it. Engineered Explosives on 2 is so strong against us because it's like the all our creatures are 2-drops and our Spreading Seas are 2-drops. So we are considering here, he's not really putting a pressure on. We have the potential of putting him off white mana. The Malakir Mine, playing those two as lands, means that he's not in a situation with great mana stats. We can also just consider playing out Svelun, saying, please have the answer, or this guy will run away with the game. Or we could just play out Adept, but I think Svelun is the right play. It's still a situation where you optimize your mana, and if you draw a land next turn, then we can double spell. And he needs to have a good removal spell now, and then it's still a 1-for-1. And if he doesn't, the Svelun will run away with the game. He played Grief. Okay, so he evokes Grief. Interesting. What does he take from our hand? What will you take, sir? A Merfolk Trickster. Okay. And then he does the crazy tech where he can use Malakir Rebirth on it, and it'll come back tapped, and he can reveal again. So looking at this, I was glad that we didn't in this situation chose to wait on the Svaelun, because then he could have griefed it. But he played the Sword of Fire and Ice after pulling away both our tricksters, and I gotta say, really well played by Virith, because the Sword of Fire and Ice is of course really, really strong, but not if you continuously just tap anything down with tricksters. We draw the Otawara, and that's interesting, because it actually gives us an interesting out. We attack here in, and we see what we can draw. We draw something else. Actually, what we could do here is just to take him off white mana to make sure anything is good. What was happening here is that now we have the 4th land, but maybe we should have, instead of doing this, we should have maybe just used Otawara this turn. It only costs 3 mana from Svaelun, but it's just something where it could be important to put him, hold him off his white mana, and allowing him to attack with the grief could be dangerous. But again, it's only damage at this moment, so we let him attack in and draw a card. But he has no white mana. Next turn we can both Otawara and potentially do something else. We can't really add it because that's too risky. Unless we draw land here, then we can both add it. Okay, we didn't. But the Ether Vial is also good to get down on the last turn. So now we have the Otawara, and we are on 9, so it's a pretty dangerous spot. We are considering here, when we are bouncing with Otawara, this is going to be our big play to get him out of range. We either bounce the sword, which is not that interesting, because then he'll still hit us for 5, or we bounce Grief and let him take a card. But if you replay Grief at this moment, what does it actually do against us? We can, of course, let him hit us with Sword of Fire and Ice. He'll draw a card, he'll hit us for 2. So we need to bounce something. And bouncing the Grief is doable because Otawara is not a blue card. So you can't do that, even though it has protection. He can then replay it. But what can he take? We only have Adept. And I can give him an Adept, it doesn't really matter. So I think it's the correct play to bounce the Grief. And next turn we have the Ether Vial up. A bit scary to let him hit us one time last turn, but I think getting him off white mana and getting the Vial down is worth the one hit. He replayed Grief. What will you take, sir? You have choice of Adept. Our problem, of course, is that now we're facing down another hit from the sword. So we need to draw out of this and Adept again. Let's start with playing an Adept or vialing an Adept. I think it's best to play the Adept first, because then you reveal an Adept and see what happens. We need to draw a Trickster or something. Okay, let's just attack. He'll not block anyway. Brazen Borrow. That was great. Now, important with Brazen Borrow now is that we can't wait for him to equip, which means that we can play down another Adept from the Vial just to see if we find something else. And now it's pretty interesting because we need to, of course, Brazen Borrow is our golden ticket to win this game. We have blocked for the other win, but the Grief is enough to kill us alone because it hits for 5, and then the Sword of Fire and Ice will hit for 2 more. So we need to Brazen Borrow, and if we Brazen Borrow the Grief when he equips it, he can then equip the Charming Prince. He's on 4 now. What happens? What's going on? Now he's equipping. So this is where we need to do our play. Either we bounce the Grief now, but then he gets to re-equip it on Charming Prince, and then he hits us for 6, and that might not be enough. Otherwise, we can let him hit with Grief and bounce the sword. But then he has 2 power on the Charming Prince and 3 power on the Grief with Menace. So we need to double block the Grief. I think that's a valid point for both plays. But it's a difficult situation. Of course, we are in a situation where next turn we want to have the Adepts up so we can kill him next turn, because we can't get hit more by Sword of Fire and Ice. So that's the most important thing. And how can we avoid getting killed by or having our Adepts die? That's by letting him hit us by Grief. So I rather want him just to get the Grief up in his hand. He can replay it. He has 3 mana. But equipping, letting him equip with Charming Prince and going in for 6 damage is really not that interesting for him. And if you do that and kill one of our Adepts with the Sword of Fire and Ice, he needs to play the War Trigger, and then he will be tapped out because it costs 2 mana to equip the sword. So then we would be on 3. And we would have 5 power, and he would be tapped out. So I think allowing him to re-equip on the Charming Prince is a correct play. Now he's considering what to do. And it doesn't really matter if he replays the Grief in any point. It doesn't really matter. So now what can he do? He can equip the Charming Prince. He can attack. We can't block, but he can only give us 6 points of damage. And you can see by ephemerating, he's not going to attack. He's trying to see if he can stay alive, so he gains 3 life from the ephemerate. And then he can equip it as a good blocker. Pretty good play, so he's still in it. And he passes the turn. Okay, so this is a situation where actually suddenly we're in a situation where we can't really start beating him down unless we draw a Lord, and we don't. We can put down the Adept to draw a card. We draw a Tideshipper. Okay, that's great. We can take him off mana, but we still don't have a Lord. And a Lord is enough to win. So if we can copy the Glasspool Mimic, we can draw another card. We can also just attack with everything, which will be 5 points of damage. But we want to start by finding the Lord if we can. So the Lord will just be an insta-win, and that's really valuable because then there's not really going to be anything going down. Okay, we draw Spring. So we don't find the Lord. Okay, but then we still have the attack, and we can still attack in. And by attacking in before drawing or before playing a card, we'll draw a card with Svelu, and that could be another Brazen Burrow, maybe something like that. It's not. It's a Glasspool Mimic. And in this situation, he has decent blocks, but killing an Adept is not important at this moment. He's down to 2 HP, and if he wants to use in his entire turn to blink his Charming Prince from the rebound ephemerate, that's fine by us. After attacks, we can also apply a Tideshipper just to get more pressure down and take him off white mana. I think that's pretty good in this moment. Now it rebounds. Do he want to use it? It shouldn't be that relevant. He can go up to 5, then he needs to re-equip the sword. That's not going to be relevant for him to do. So he can still hit her for 6, but I don't see cards in his deck dealing the last 1 point of damage. I don't see it. So he attacks in. We can't block. You're welcome to hit me down to 1, sir. He chooses to kill the Tideshipper and pay the water. Okay, this gives him a white source. What will we use it for? Whatever will you use that white source for, sir? He's on 2. We have 4 lethal creatures. He has no blockers. It's a bit scary. What can he have? Damnation? That would be pretty good. We have no Mutavaults. What can it be? He's not playing Damnation in this deck. That would be insane. He's considering it. What is it? Spirit Realm. Taking our Svelu. Which means 2 mana, 3 lethal creatures. You need to have a certain amount of removal spells at this point, sir. If you want to beat us. Might as well take it up so we can Glasspool Mimic, Mutavault. Everything's fine. There's not much you can do here. I think attacking is fine. Let's get some information by taking off his Urborg tomb first. So see what happened. Then he needs to play his hand, because now he has no black mana. Okay, he has 1 black mana. And we draw the Lord from this Bright Strange Seas. That might be relevant. So we play down the Lord. And he concedes. Well done. We got it. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, that was pretty cool. Pretty good to see. The deck again performed well. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I think there's a lot of people who are experimenting a bit now with different types of builds. I like this version. I actually really think that one of the best cards in the deck at the moment is actually Mutavault. You can also see some of the times today where it's suddenly just a 4/4 blocker or 5/5 blocker because of all the Lord effects. And also there's a bit of mass removal effects, things that can be scary. And this card is great against the white and blue control deck. So I think I think right now this is a good way of running the list. I like the concept of combining Dismembers, Subtleties and Force Negations for our flex plots. It gives a bit of different utility. Subtleties are so great right now that you can easily consider just running 4 of those. This card is messed up. It didn't perform that much today, but it's a really, really good card. So I like the split, and feel free if you have any questions or comments to ask me anything. And if you like what I've been doing here, I would really love you to subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing more Mono Blue Merfolk content and running more modern leagues. Hope to get a trophy in one of the coming ones. And if you want to see how it's been going, I'll put in a link here for another video where I was up against Murktide. I think Murktide is one of the interesting matchups because it's one of the best decks in the format. Now we played against Burn today, but last time we played against Murktide. So if you want to watch how that went, go into that video and see the games we had there in the Modern League, and especially the game against Murktide. That's pretty cool. I think we have game against that deck, even though it's a tough matchup. But thanks for watching, guys, and have a nice one. It was really nice to seeing you here. And see you next time.